Okay. Aha! We're live! Wonderful. So this is my first YouTube live. Hello, thank you for listening. Today I wanted to talk a little bit into myth and king, Ancient African Skywatchers, which is about ancient sacred sites in Southern Africa, where I follow a man who's an archaeoastronomer and a geomancer. I kind of think of him as a bit of a shaman as well. And he has rediscovered these really beautiful, peaceful, sacred sites all around the mountains in Southern Africa that line up with solstice and equinox. So the next part of our journey, for me as a filmmaker, I'm following Dean on a tour further up into Southern Africa. We're going to Botswana and Namibia and Zimbabwe. And this has been, as a filmmaker, it's been quite a leap for me. And so I've really had to bring in part of what I teach people as a coach, and using my archetypal work to be able to move through all the things that are difficult for me. It's been a stretch to find the finances to do it. So if you do find it in your heart to help with this trip, I'll put some links below. And what's interesting is that my archetypal work as a coach links in really beautifully with the myth, the mythology that I am bringing into the film. So although myth isn't seen as true story, the myth often brings in an idea and a deeper understanding of something. So we may not cognitively fully understand what the myth is referring to, but something in our bodies goes, oh, I remember something. Those myths in indigenous communities or cultures around the world bring in some sort of remembering and help us link to the truth for us. So one of the myths that I wanted to bring up was a myth from Credo Mutwa. I've been reading Indaba, My Children, and Credo Mutwa was actually one of Dean Leprini's, the man who I'm following around the sacred sites. He was one of Dean's first teachers. So in this story, one of the big indigenous myths around the world includes the snake. And Credo Mutwa starts the story with the idea that the snake is very linked to streams and rivers, the flow of that stream and that river, and how the snake also is then linked to the underground. And the other story that so many indigenous cultures have is that snake that eats its tail, depicting the never-ending cycle of life, and also many people believe reincarnation. And certainly African cultures have some very strong beliefs around that. And the story that Credo brings in that I wanted to share, one of his lineages is Zulu, so I think most of his myth stories are from that lineage. And he talks about the grasses and how those are newer souls that come in as grasses. And then he talks about, as you evolve, you then are associated with trees. And in African culture, some trees are more sacred than others. Like the African baobab tree is incredibly sacred. And so as an older soul, you'd be associated with the baobab, and how that then ties into reincarnating into animal and then reincarnating into human form, and how your soul is evolving from the grasses, which I love grasses, and I love the story as well because I have a very close affinity to trees. So you're evolving from the grasses to the trees to the animals to the human. So even though that you may not take that story literally, you may or may not, there's something in it that holds truth, and that you can feel that in your body. So I wanted to share that with you. And thank you so much for listening. I will be sharing some more of my journey as a filmmaker next weekend, and see you then.